The video right in front of you is 100% AI generated. Not a single clip in this video is real. And in this YouTube video, I'm going to be going over how I helped my student Omar go from $0 to $35,000 a month with his health brand called Red Life Therapy. And with this brand, he's been able to accumulate over 80,000 followers on Instagram, 38,000 followers on TikTok, and even hitting 14 million view videos. All right. And as you guys can see, these are Omar's results. We've actually had him here on the channel as a case study, so you guys can go ahead and watch that. But he's been hitting some crazy orders as well with this health product. All right. And the basis of this video is to teach you how you're going to be able to do this with AI organic dropshipping, where you're not having to record for videos, show your face, and keep anywhere from 50 to 70% profit margins, just like Omar. So let's go ahead and go over health products first. So everyone gets sick eventually, okay? Health is one of the biggest markets you can sell into, especially in the United States. The United States is probably one of the most unhealthiest countries in the world because we have a lot of processed foods, and just overall, people here are just not the healthiest, okay, unfortunately. All right, I'm a US citizen myself, but I'm just here to tell you the truth, all right? And so when it comes to health products, we have a very big audience here, but a very low conversion rate, right? Pain point content, right? The marketing that we're going to be focusing on here is going to pull a viewer in, but many aren't ready to buy yet or even really trust your brand. And so when it comes to health products or really any problem-solving product, this essentially closes the gap, because when the buyer already feels the problem physically, right? You're not necessarily creating the demand. You're actually answering it through your content, right? And in this video, we're going to be using Omar's brand as an example, right? Omar was selling a red light therapy hat, and the problem is pretty obvious with this, right? It's going to be hair loss. And the product is very visual, and there's endless content to make. For example, you could do like before and afters, you can do routines, you could even do some sort of hey comment saying, why is your hair thinning? And you kind of go over your problem, right? And so obviously, when it comes to losing your hair, it's a pretty big problem for us men, all right? And so here we have a kind of like game plan when it comes to the style of content that we're going to be focusing on, which is going to be predominantly the transformation. Okay. So obviously in the beginning, we have the problem, then we have a solution to that problem, which is going to be our product. And then we have the final outcome, which is going to be week 18 when, he grows some hair. And like I mentioned, guys, none of what you're seeing here is real. This is all AI generated. And guys, look how real this looks. This is insane, right? And so the key takeaway here, right, is that reach is very easy when it comes to the health niche, okay? But you want to pick a product where the problem is felt, visible, and actually worth filming, because quite frankly, this isn't the only health product you could be running right now, but it kind of has to fit that criteria, all right? And so piggybacking off of that, let's go over product criteria, all right? So since we rely on organic content, the product has to be filmable before it can be profitable, all right? That's how we're going to make our money here, because essentially what we're doing here is we're focusing on explosive marketing. We're essentially going to try and hit like a 14 million view video like Omar did, and then with all that traffic, we're going to lead it to our Shopify store to then make some money, right? And so we have 4 filters plus a little bonus when I'm adding here that separates a good product from a great one, okay? So the first thing that we're going to be going over is a visual transformation. So you have to be able to show it working, okay? That's like the whole basis behind this. If the result only exists in how someone feels, there's really nothing to film and nothing to go viral with. And so what we've been noticing here is that these type of problem-solving products, right, that you could visually see convert a lot better than, for example, a supplement gummy that you can feel when it comes to, I don't know, your gut health, right? Because that's not something you're going to be visually seeing the transformation of. And another good example is going to be this product right here, this tinnitus red light product. So if you guys want to go ahead and take a look at this video right here, I'll briefly show you it. But basically, it's a very similar product, right? This is going to be particularly for people that experience tinnitus. And what you guys are seeing here is an experiment, right, of a doctor versus the actual product going to work, and then, working for the customer. And I don't know if you guys heard that because my volume was down, but let's just do it one more time. You guys can not only visually see the transformation, but also hear it, right? So when she puts it in her ear, it calms her down, and then she's finally able to go to sleep and not have that ringing noise in her ear, right? So this is going to be another very good example. And this is funny because this is actually one of my other students, John, and this is one of the products that helped him get to a $60,000 a month with me, which is pretty crazy. So yeah, this is really going to be the style of content that you want to aim for, is like that before and after effect. But yo, shout out John, bro. He's been absolutely freaking printing. All right, so the next point here is that the product should solve a physical problem. All right. So the best products in here are the ones that fix something that the buyer can go ahead and just point to, right? So we want a physical problem. We want to see a visible fix to it, and then an obvious reason to buy, right? And so let me go ahead and show you this video that Omar made. Absolute genius. Let's go ahead and watch it.
Imagine being 30 and bald.
So we see the transformation here.
No more bullying.
Again, none of this is actually real, okay? That's the craziest part about this. But here's the thing. The bonus, right, is going to be the emotional fix, because this is kind of like an emotional concept, right? Not only can we see a clear issue in his balding head, but then we can go ahead and just see the transformation and not only see him happy, but just a little bit more confident in this emotional barrier that he had, you know, with his students, right? His students were literally calling him out for being bald. And so a bonus is going to be that emotional fix, because you got to think, right? People have a lot of physical problems in the world, right? But once you fix the physical, you know, something that happens after is an emotional side effect from feeling a lot better, right? Think about going to the gym, right? Most people, when they start the gym, they're not fit. Maybe you're fat, whatever. But once you start going to the gym, you have a proper routine, you start eating well, and you're pretty much locked in. At one point in time, it could be 6, 2 years, 3 years, you're going to get fit. And so obviously that's going to be showing in your physical, but what's the byproduct of being jacked? Well, you're going to most likely be a lot more confident about, you know, how you talk to people, how you walk into a room, or maybe you could just finally go up to your crush. And so you really want to think about the emotional byproduct of what your product can do. Okay. And obviously when it comes to hair, bro, it's got to be one of the most important things as a man. I mean, at least for me, bro, if I lose my hair, I'm cooked, right? All right. So the third thing here that we're looking for, right, that fits our product criteria, it needs to have a minimum of 50% profit margin per order, all right? Because since we do organic marketing, we're not having to pump any money into, you know, marketing. And so the best part about this is that we're able to keep so much, but we have to make sure that what we're selling here is relatively cheap to source, so we can minimum make 50%, all right? So with Omar, we were probably at like 70% margin, and I'll show you later on how we were able to get to that point. But you could see how, you know, on Alibaba, this exact product is being sourced for $31, and, you know, we were selling it for about $70 with upsells, etc., right? So if you guys take a look right here, this is gonna be his lander. It's relatively simple, right? We got a couple bundles, but we'll go over it in a little bit, right? So not only do we wanna make sure that we're profiting at least 50% per order, but let me tell you something. You want to make sure that the product is actually under $100. And let me tell you why, right? So with higher ticket products, right, they tend to convert a lot less, especially from cold organic traffic, right? We don't have the luxury of targeting a specific ICP, you know, with paid ads, right? When a buyer meets you, you know, they don't even know who the fuck you are, right? And so they're not going to necessarily trust you to buy a $395, you know, mask here, as you guys can see. And so for us organic marketers, we want to make sure that we're picking products that are under $100, because, you know, from doing this, you know, for so long, I've noticed that, you know, once you go over the $100 threshold, people honestly start to think a little bit more about their decision, and they're like, damn, bro, am I really going to drop $100 on this? So we want to make sure that it's under $100. All right. So we have a optimal conversion rate. All right. And last thing here, I told you I would give you the bonus. You want to make sure that the product is not easily found in stores. Now, this is not always like a necessity, because with Omar, we obviously didn't do it, right? His product is all over Amazon, Target, Walmart, but this is the cherry on top if you really want to up your conversion rate, right? So if someone could just grab it at Target on the way home, your content sells for them and you get absolutely nothing, right? You're literally just doing marketing for Target at that point. And you want the video to be the only place they can actually find it. So unfortunately, with Omar, a lot of the sessions that we were seeing on his Shopify page, you know, weren't converting. The reason being was a couple of things. First, when you target the health niche, right, and you go really, really viral, you're going to start targeting a whole bunch of countries from all over the world, because health is something that happens worldwide. Another thing too is that a lot of these customers were probably going into Amazon and seeing the same exact product for a little bit cheaper. Good example is this listing right here, $62 with Prime overnight shipping. So, you know, what's stopping really anybody from just getting it from Amazon, Mr. Jeff Bezos, than waiting, you know, 14 days from Omar? You know what I'm saying? And so, like I mentioned, the health niche is a very hyper-competitive market, and so you're really going to be, you know, putting yourself in an advantageous position if your product cannot be sourceable, you know, on Amazon, Walmart, Target, and you're the only person that has it, right? But unfortunately, with Omar, we weren't able to do that, which is why, you know, his conversion rate was just relatively low for what it was. But still, he's still making $30,000 a month, right? But imagine what these guys on Amazon are making, probably triple that, all right? So now we're going to be going over, the research and building an ICP. This is going to be the most important part, because before you make a single video, a single ad, you should be able to describe your buyer in one sentence, right? You need to actually research the person that you're going to be targeting, whether you're doing hair loss, acne, whatever it may be, even tinnitus, right? You want to study them and know absolutely everything about them, right? And so if you have a vague audience and you have very vague content, you're not going to get conversions, right? So you really want to study here, okay? All right, so one thing that we want to ask ourselves is, who is actively frustrated by the problem that you're going to be targeting, right? How old are they, what gender, and what stage in their life are they in right now? And so let me do a quick little test for you, right? What do you think would do better here, right? This one, men 25 to 40, noticing thinning at the crown, or people who just want better hair, right? Obviously this one, when it comes to the copy that you're going to be writing in your text hooks and really just talking to Claude, you want to make sure that you're hyper specific about who you're targeting, because that's going to help you with your conversion rate and, most importantly, building your avatar, which we will be going over in just a little bit. So bear with me, okay? All right, so now what we're going to be going over is my niche research workflow that I'm doing with Claude now. All right, so the first thing that we need to understand is the buyer. We need to study what works, and then eventually we're going to be building our own angle, okay? So the first step here is actually building your ICP with Claude, all right? Using, hey, hi, this is fantastic, all right? Welcome to 2026. So essentially what we're gonna do here is we're gonna ask Claude to profile our ideal customer, right? Who they are, what they do, what they care about, and what emotionally drives them to buy. This profile, right? Think of it as like the foundation of every single video that you're gonna be making, okay? And so what I went ahead and did here is I made you guys a document that you can go ahead and feed Claude right this very moment. You guys can go ahead and take a look at the description below. It's absolutely free, no paywall, nothing. Just go ahead, copy it, and feed it to your Claude. And this is exactly what I did. And so I went ahead, I copied this exact prompt here, and I added the product, right? I added Omar's product. I added the link to his product page. And pretty much what it did is it did a whole entire analysis, a whole entire market overview of the product, what my ICP looks like, the demographic, the age, the gender, right? Even down to like who they are inside. It's insane. It's insanely detailed. This will probably take me 45 minutes to just go over, but the most important part here is that Claude has it and understands it, because like I mentioned, this will be the foundation of, generating our avatar, making our videos, etc. And like I mentioned, you guys can go ahead and find that document under this video. All right, so step 2 here is going to be building your avatar. So once you have your ICP, which I went ahead and showed you guys how I did it, right? You want to figure out how you can make, Claude build you an image prompt to make an image of your avatar. You want to visually see, the people that you're talking to, right? And the most important part about this is that you're going to be using this avatar, right, to make your videos. And so this is exactly what I did. And so what I told Claude, and I'll show you guys the chat, right, is I had to do the analysis, right? It literally told me absolutely everything into detail. And so literally what I said was like, now based off this information, make me a ChatGPT image prompt to feed into Higgsfield to make me a picture of a balding man based off your research, right? And so it spit this out. I then fed this into, Higgsfield, and guys, look what this freaking made. A hyper-realistic image of my first avatar, right? You guys can see in detail here that he's obviously balding. He's not happy. You can even see his used and dirty toothbrush with a used and dirty mirror, and it's absolutely insane, right? Like the hyper-realism that we're at in this very moment is quite frankly like unfathomable. It's insane. Okay. And so like I mentioned, now we have our reference images and we're going to be able to go ahead and create our first ever video. Now, I'm not going to teach you how to create a video. I already made that video. If you guys want to learn how to make your first AI video, just take a look in the description below and watch my free course where I teach you A to Z how to get started with Higgsfield and make your first ever render. But for the sake of time, I just showed you guys, what my avatar is going to be looking like. All right. All right. So the last thing that we're going to be going over here is going to be how to make a proper brandable landing page that's optimized for average order value and most importantly, conversion rate. And so we're going to be taking a look at Omar's landing page. Like I mentioned earlier, dude, this is insane, right? Like he's able to get $1,600 orders. Okay. Orders, like not days, orders, like pro. So let's take a look at what he's doing, right? So with Omar, we were able to set up a very brandable store. As you guys can see, we have the name of the brand. We have the actual offer. They're saving 40% off. We have a little bit of scarcity, right? We have a very low stock, even though we don't. And then we have a couple of points just going over the actual product. Now, the most important part here are going to be two things here. We have the product pictures that are very branded, right? We have before and afters to show credibility. A couple more pictures here that are very simple, straight to the point, nothing crazy. But here we have all the money, right? The bundles, all right? So let's take a look at the first offer. The first one's going to be the the plain Jane cap with a free gift. You know, we're giving out a scalp massager for absolutely free, so customers just feel, oh wow, I'm getting a lot of value, right? Not only do I get my cap that's going to solve my problem, but I also get a massager to massage my hair. All right, so the second bundle here is going to be the cap with a 45-day supply serum and a free gift, right? So not only are we going to be selling the cap, but we're going to be upselling the serum, which is perfect because it's complementary to our item. And so anytime that you guys want to build a bundle, number one tip I'm going to give you, sell or upsell a complementary item that makes sense to buy with your main product. And so obviously people are trying to grow hair quicker. And so not only are they going to be utilizing the red light therapy hat, but they can also utilize the serum and also get that free scalp massager. So it actually goes into the pores a lot quicker, more efficiently to get overall better results. And so that's exactly what we did. And so it's interesting because before we didn't have the serum and he was only selling the cap and he was stuck at that $70 AOV. But the moment we implemented the serum and even some of these free gifts that you guys are seeing, bro, his AOV skyrocketed. And as you guys saw earlier, bro, he's getting $1,600 orders. All right. So obviously this works. And then we have the third offer right here, which is just a 90-day supply of the serum. And we also give him a massive, massive discount on them, as well as the free massager. So yeah, we A, B, C, D tested this offer, and this was the highest converting one out of all of them. And so apart from the product images, the offer, you know, the branding, if we scroll down, we have, you know, a little bit more about the product. We have some descriptions, FAQ, shippings, 90-day guarantee. We have some graphics. Again, this isn't optimized for PCs. It's mainly mobile. So just, you know, also keep that in mind. We also have the dermatologist recommended, right? Amazing. We have some before and after sliders so people can see the results. Then we have the science behind red light therapy, you know, just to keep customers a little bit more incentivized about, you know, what we're doing here, right? Because you got to think of this as like a funnel, right? We have the top of the funnel, right? But as people scroll down, it's almost like we want to go ahead and, you know, just get them through the door, right? And it's very important that you have some good testimonials, some good information about the product, and overall just building good credibility for them to eventually convert, right? It's almost like you kind of have to incentivize them to buy the product, right? Like, you know, what makes you different than everybody else? And so this is why we added the science, even dermatologists talking about it, and most importantly, a 30-day money-back guarantee, right? And so yeah, this is going to be the fully branded product page that Omar, you know, has in place. We also have some pre-purchase and post-purchase upsells, which I won't be talking about, but that also made like an additional 10 grand or makes an additional like 10 grand a month for him, which is insane, right? It's just free money that he would have never made if he didn't have these systems in place. Okay. So yeah, guys, we pretty much went through everything. We took a deep dive into Omar's brand. We also talked about health products and how it has one of the biggest audiences at the very moment. We also went through the product criteria, what you should be looking out for. We even tapped into John's brand as well that helped him get to that $60,000 mark. We also talked about, you know, the sourcing, right? We want to make sure that we're profiting a minimum of 50%, finding products that are under $100 to, you know, actually convert. And then we also went through the research and how to build your ideal customer profile using this Claude prompt that I provided you guys in this video. And then lastly, we went over how to build a high converting landing page that looks brandable and has, you know, the potential to hit these crazy orders like we saw earlier. And it's not just Omar hitting these crazy months with me. If we take a look inside the win section of Full Stack Ecom, which is my one-on-one mentorship, let me just show you what we've been doing these last couple of days. Not weeks, not months, but days. This was yesterday, Leps hitting his first ever 1K day. Then we have Cow hitting his first ever 1K day as well. Then we have AR hitting his first ever 2.5K day. We keep going up. We have Gus hitting a $31,000 a month. Now we have Theo and Lennon hitting a $120,000 week, not month, not year, but week, all while keeping 50% margin, probably more with this store. All right, we also have Jacob, right? He said he found the product, he started posting for it, and created the store just in one day and hit $2,800 in sales. All right, that's the power of AI. Do you guys understand that these are just normal people, bro, getting extraordinarily like insane results? Like, bro, to make $120,000 in just a year, you have to be like genuinely like probably a doctor. These are just 18-year-old kids making this in a week. All right, if we scroll up, we got Jay copying his dream Tesla, not only from ecom, but also his 9 to 5. So he's doing this part-time, but still, it's helping him fund, you know, the Tessie. If we keep scrolling up, guys, this just never ends. I'm not even going to cap. Like, this is Mike, calm $7,000 a week. This was posted just 5 days ago. Everyone in here is winning. Everybody. Even John, we talked about him, you know, earlier in this video. He went from doing $60,000 a month with me to $64,000 in just a week. Not a month, not a year, but a week. Insane, bro. Insane results. We even have Adam here. He said he did a back-to-back $2,900 days, and he hit an $11,400 day as well, bro. And he talks about how his life just did a full 360, bro. I mean, guys, look at this. He literally had 98 cents to his name, and now he's doing $11,000 a day. Like, what job pays that type of money, right? Anyways, we've been crushing. If you guys want to join, you guys can go ahead and take a look at the description below. So you guys can go ahead and work one-on-one with me personally, okay? And see if you're a right fit. But, man, I can go on forever, bro. And, again, this is all just from July, bro. These aren't like old results from years ago like all these other fucking gurus are showing. Like, bro, 40K day with Lennon. Cartier at 18, July 18th. Crazy. Even Amrit copying his first ever Rolex, July 17th. Bro, it just never stops. Just never stops. Never stops. Never stops. So, yeah, guys, if you guys want to get results like this, apply down below. I'll see you guys in the next video. Also, let me know what you guys want to see in the future, man. I'm looking at all the comments. I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace out.